Hey buddy, good energy to you guys. Oh, excuse me. So I just wrote down some words concerning the human trafficking and sex trafficking, child trafficking, organ harvesting. I mean, it's an industry, and there's not a lot being told about it, which is interesting. Because we have so many of these news and media channels or entities, and it's a very serious problem that's happening right here in America, all over the place, and yet there's very little being spoken about it. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and just read some words that I have been working on this morning, and this is a work in progress, but I feel like even as a rough draft, it's good to just spread this information out on the internet, and the more we all talk about it, the more we're all actually doing something about it, energetically and literally, by just throwing that information out there and showing that we care, putting energy into it as opposed to other things. So here we go. Combating human trafficking. So when I think about a solution to a problem, I feel I need to find the core reason of why this problem is being perpetuated, and from that knowledge of why, can we then begin to formulate a tangible way to solve the problem? So without knowing how it came to be, how can anyone see how to change anything? A mistake is only a mistake if you don't learn. Once the learning has been proven, it's now a lesson. So there's a lesson here. So what's the lesson to learn? I just saw a clip with someone speaking about how there's 300,000 victims of sex trafficking in Texas right now, and that's just one state. When I heard that 300,000 number, I was kind of flabbergasted. I was like, wow, I mean, that's a huge number of people that are being slaves for sex. And, you look around America, like there's a lot of money here. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of, quote unquote power, and it's like, with all this power, like, where is it going? Like, what good is it really doing when we have situations with like this? But it is what it is. It's all here for a reason, to learn and grow from. So, it's a very high number, and that is just one state in America, and I feel like I am privy to a lot of evils that are taking place, but again, I was surprised to hear that, 300,000, that was a very large number for one state. And, why is this not getting more attention? And again, to me, it's obvious. Our media companies are corporations of their own, with their own agendas. They report the news or the 411 that they want us to hear and see. This is another example of a system that appears to always share the truth and shed light on evil, when in fact it is a ploy to gain people's attention and redirect it towards areas of thought that empower them, or evil, and take away from good, or God. So what other reason is there not to talk about child/human sex trafficking and organ harvesting? It's a serious problem. Anyways, have we all not at least seen some time in our lives all the sad posters of missing children and people? I know I have. So it's there, man. It's, I feel it intuitively, and I have seen these posters all over the place. And then you have other various individuals whose integrity I feel is true, speaking about these things, who are privy to information that is beyond my realm of knowing, based on, when you gain resources, a resource is a source. So if you have more resources, it could be said that you are privy to more information, as far as the actual interworkings of societies and money and currency and industry, good and bad. So people with money have the opportunity to see more of the inner workings of what goes on with currencies. So that's why I think that those type of people are, when they speak, these truths about what's really going on behind the scenes of things, they're really the best, people we have for, the truth, because they're the people that have actually been there and seen it. And they're also taking a very, large risk onto themselves by speaking against these powers, because a lot of times they have to get involved with these powers to a certain extent, and so even speaking out against them is going to bring a lot of flack to them and their family. So it is a very large risk that they are taking. So my hat goes off to all of y'all who've seen these horrors and know about these horrors and are speaking forth and trying to do something about it. Thank you for your good work. All right. So taking a macro approach to things is a good way, if not the only way, to solve big things. And so first of all, our children and women are vulnerable. They do not have protection, and they are not able to defend themselves as men are. These are facts, man. So what can we do to provide protection? How is protection to be determined? as there are many forms of protection, and one reason why all this evil keeps on happening is because we have allowed it in and are continuing to enact and repeat evil routines and ways of living. So as we can create a place for people whom are hurt and have been hurt by sex trafficking, and this is something that is good and should be implemented as soon as possible. However, along with this good work, we need to also examine the whole nature of how this came to be in the first place. And to do that, I think we need to examine the whole nature of humanity and its problem with sin, corruption, and possible ways to counter and change them, and how a person is, to a greater or lesser degree, shaped by the environment and the people and the information they are around. And this is a fact, as the good Dr. Bruce Lipton has shown us through the sciences of epigenetics, which is all about the observer effect and how cells literally react to being observed, which is basically reacting to our energy that we observe, focus onto them. So we know this stuff is real. We know we're shaped around by the environment and the culture and the things that we're shown in the programming and all that. The facts are in. So our culture is shaping us, and what has this shape turned or been molded into? With 300,000 victims in Texas alone, why are not more positions open for people who want to help out? There are so many ways to help out. We can start whole areas specifically designed for survivors of this abuse, where they can live and safely away from the dangers of the cities and work on good and healthy healing techniques and ways of living. This is where working with hemp and nonprofit and honor-based systems can provide the type of physical and spiritual protection and salvation for those whom have been hurt and are still being hurt, and for those who want to help. All these works are working to build us an infrastructure that can allow us the abundance to become independent from this satanic one, and give us the ability to go on missions to infiltrate sex rings and use force if necessary to rescue these children and people. Now, this is a job that I would want men to do because, it could involve being killed and or seriously injured. I just feel like that's not saying women couldn't do it if they want to, that's fine. But, I just feel kind of wrong, suggesting that it's something that women should do. It's more of like a manly thing to go and, be a warrior and put your, again, I'm not trying to say women can't do it. That's just a personal preference. I just don't like the sight or the idea of women needing to take up arms like that. I feel like that should be something that a man, should do. But again, who the fuck knows? If a female really feels in her heart that she wants to go in there and try to rescue some children, so be it. I'm not going to get in her way. Anyways, I bring that up more to try to just share with men, like, there is a way that we can, be warriors again for the good, and put up that good fight and really do some good against evil, but in order to do that, we also have to have the right foundation, the right infrastructure, so that we don't have to have our times and our energies consumed by the rat race and the 9-to-5, because that's where a lot of our energy is being taken to. And I think a lot of people with good hearts here in America and all over the world would love to do a job that's actually doing some real good in the world, but the problem is just those type of opportunities aren't there. So we have to make these opportunities, which is why, problems are opportunities in disguise. So when we have the problem of living for a satanic system, that's the jobs. All the jobs are involved in that system are going to go to supporting that. So we need to create our own system. We need to create our own infrastructure. We need to create our own opportunities to give us the place and the ability to do these type of honorable missions. But until we detach from this, which we become dependent on, this toxic system, we're not going to have the time or the energy or the real capability on a massive level to do this. So it's very imperative that we move away from these large cities, collectively move our resources together for a good area and a good place with good things, and self-sustainability, hemp, nonprofit, love, honor, all that shit, and start formulating an infrastructure. And from that infrastructure, we can develop different devices, different technologies, different ways of travel, different ways of rescuing, different ways of working with agencies that are actually for good, and also, shedding light on the agencies that are not for good. Because Gabriel Cruz, he's a YouTuber I've mentioned many a times. He has gone to the FBI with information showing them exactly what they're doing with smart technologies, with child trafficking, with all of these things. And he's been told they've not worked with him at all. They've chosen not to listen to him, and they've chosen not to work with him. So, there is an element of corruption that exists within our legal departments. Not all of them, but I think on the larger scale of things, that needs to be addressed. And not only does it need to be addressed, we also need to see it for what it is and stop relying on it and just become it ourselves. That's the only solution I see. I think we're that far in the game. So to continue on, However, if we if we all started liquidating our houses and moved on to an agreed upon areas with agreed upon ways of doing things, and collectively put our money into starting good growing operations with hemp and other foods, we could start to provide good jobs for the unemployed and provide a lifeline for men, women who want to go on missions, so that when they come home, they have a safe sanctuary around like-minded people and good food to look forward to, and without having to deal with all the BS of corporate America. So another thing for protection wise, like people who are speaking out against these sex rings and stuff, they're going to get hit with a lot of threats, and if you're not around like-minded people, then you don't know who your neighbors are. I mean, there's a lot of ways the enemy can position certain people in certain places, and they can do a lot of torturing, they can do a lot of fuckery, they can do a lot of just heinous shit. And a lot of that is just because you're just still choosing to live in enemy territory when you're. So it's like, it's to be expected. That's why it's, I think, imperative for us to come together in numbers, because that like-mindedness of us coming together is in itself going to be its own security net, so that people won't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars on security fences and watchdogs and guns and private security. All this stuff costs a lot of money, and it can all be, it's not necessary. If we were away from the cities, if we had an honor system where people did things a similar way that they agreed upon, if we had good food that we didn't need to go to other markets and things to buy and perpetuate, if we had more men that were willing to protect and be about helping other people, and then the women to help do what they have to do, and this could all be a whole collection of people that serve kind of like an army, or just a militia, a protective unit, a helping movement. And that in itself would be your security, instead of having to pay for all these extravagant technologies, which also tie into being dependent on the grid and all these other things. So there's just a more efficient way to go about doing this. Not to mention, it's just good to have good company around. Like, who doesn't like having good people around to just socialize and talk with and rejuvenate and help out, Strength in numbers, it's very true. So, I don't like saying this either, but from a karmatic standpoint, there has to be an effect. Shit, I'm going too late. All right, I love you guys. I might continue on.